Thank you so much for inviting me to this very important event. And I would like to thank the National Institute for Research and Development in Informatics and the Foreign Ministry of Romania for organizing this international conference on cyber diplomacy. I remember, speaking of ICI, as a young engineer, I was trained for a few weeks or months at this very important institute. It was not the kind of computer that we have today, but it stayed with me, and I'm very grateful to ICI and this very important institution. Of course, you know my attachment to the Romanian Foreign Ministry. That's where I started my career after '89. I always try to be of help to the institution that formed me as a professional and as a leader. But coming back to Romania, this is a steadfast and highly valued ally in NATO, and not least when it comes to strengthening our cyber defenses. You are also diligently implementing the NATO Cyber Defense Pledge adopted at the 2016 Warsaw Summit, strengthening national cyber defenses while enhancing alliance-wide resilience to cyber attacks. This conference is another great example of Romania's contribution to our alliance. The efforts and initiatives undertaken by Romania in the realm of security and cybersecurity also support greatly the European dimension of this conversation. And the fact that Romania has been selected by the EU to host the EU Cyber Competence Center is very telling about the talent, about the ecosystem that Romania, its universities, and its young talent continue to produce. So a special thank goes for ICI, and also, as I mentioned earlier, thank for the organizers and the participants to this very important conference. As our daily dependence on digital assets increases, so does our vulnerability to cyber attacks and incidents. Malicious cyber activities are an ever-present feature of a more contested and competitive world. Cyber attacks are becoming more frequent, more complex, and more destructive. And alongside disinformation and digital espionage, cyber is a key component of modern warfare. We see this today in Ukraine. On the day of Russia's invasion, large-scale cyber attacks on government, military, and critical infrastructure took place. And the continued use of cyber attacks tries to disrupt, to disable, and deplete Ukraine's cyber defenses. Enhancing our cybersecurity is essential to make our societies more resilient and keep our people safe in times of peace, in crisis, and in conflict. It is crucial to our deterrence and defense, and this is why it is top on NATO's agenda today, and I'm privileged that Secretary General Stoltenberg entrusted me with the important task to run the cyber adaptation in NATO. NATO has done a lot in recent years to strengthen our cyber defenses. As I mentioned, in 2016, we made cyberspace an operational domain, alongside land, air, and sea, followed by space in 2019. This means that a cyber attack or significant cumulative malicious cyber activities could trigger our Article 5 collective defense response, which states that an attack on one ally is an attack on all. In 2016, we also adopted our Cyber Defense Pledge, and since then, allies have taken significant steps to upgrade their cyber capabilities, improve their legal and institutional frameworks, and increase their investment in cyber defense. We have now a new Cyber Operations Center in Belgium, providing situational awareness to military commanders and coordinating NATO's operational activity in cyberspace. Last June, we agreed a comprehensive new cyber defense policy for NATO. It recognizes that cyberspace is contested at all times, so we must be ready at all times to actively deter, defend, and counter all threats. We protect NATO's networks 24/7, and we have rapid reaction cyber defense teams on hand to help allies whenever there is a need for that. On May 18, we'll reconvene the first ever Cyber Coordinators North Atlantic Council. I will be privileged to chair that, a meeting of top-level officials for cybersecurity and defense in national governments. And speaking of the participants from outside of Europe to your conference, I've seen people from Japan, I've seen people from Israel. This topic is also very important for the NATO partnership agenda. But it is not only NATO and NATO allies that are strengthening our cyber defenses. We support our partners, not least Ukraine. Speaking of Ukraine, NATO has helped enhance Ukraine's resilience to cyber attacks as part of our wider support for their defense and security sector reform. NATO cyber experts in Brussels regularly exchange information and offer assistance to their Ukrainian counterparts. We jointly work with industry to help Ukraine. We have signed an agreement to deepen our collaboration and further modernize their IT and communications. And Ukraine is the largest beneficiary of our Science for Peace and Security program, where the majority of projects focus on advanced technologies. There are also other partners like Georgia and Bosnia-Herzegovina that may be at risk of Russian aggression. So we are stepping up our tailored practical and political support to strengthen their resilience and help prevent further aggression, including in cyberspace. As I mentioned, we also increase our cooperation with our Asia-Pacific partners in several areas, including in cyber, in new technologies, and countering disinformation. Enhancing our cyber resilience while defending our values and the rules-based international order is a collective effort. This is why we take a whole-of-government and a whole-of-society approach that recognizes the role of the military, of government, and industry and academia, that they all play together in strengthening our cyber resilience. It is why we continue to work closely with like-minded partners and organizations, including the European Union, to strengthen our cooperation on cyber defense and cyber diplomacy. And why we are working with industry, including through the NATO Industry Cyber Partnership. It is also the reason I'm so delighted to support important initiatives like this conference. Ladies and gentlemen, NATO is a defensive alliance of 30 nations and 40 global partners, a unique community of values. So it is also a formidable platform to exchange information and intelligence, and a powerful forum to consult and coordinate our collective responses. Last July, for example, NATO issued a strong statement condemning malicious cyber activities, including the Microsoft Exchange server compromise. We did this collectively, alongside individual allies, as well as partner countries and other international organizations. This was a clear demonstration of our common commitment to a free, open, peaceful, and secure cyberspace. A cyberspace that respects international law and voluntary norms of responsible behavior. At our Madrid summit next month, we'll agree NATO's next strategic concept. This is our blueprint for keeping our 1 billion people safe in the decade ahead. Working with allies and partners to keep our cyber defenses strong in our societies is fundamental to this. So I look forward to continuing to work with you all to ensure we are cyber secure, future-proof, and resilient in a more contested and dangerous world. Thank you so much for inviting me. Mă bucur foarte mult să fiu alături de voi și vă urez foarte mult succes. Best of luck in your discussions.